We're going to go through every game of the Week 7 slate, game by game. We'll talk about each team, and then on the screen, there will be rankings for each player. I don't like to waste a lot of time in the intro. Let's start with teams on bye. The Ravens, who really need a bye right now to get Lamar Jackson healthy. They will not be in your lineup. Lamar hasn't been in your lineup. But the Bills, if you've had Josh Allen, if you've had James Cook, you will be without those guys this week. We'll go through each game. We'll talk about guys that you can use to replace them and so on. Let's get into game number 1 for the week, the Thursday night football game. The Steelers travel to the Bengals. Let's start with the Steelers. I've got Aaron Rodgers at quarterback 16. Normally he would be around quarterback 20, 22. There's just not a lot of great receiving talent on this team outside of DK Metcalf. But the matchup against the Bengals is just one of the easiest matchups that there is. I've got DK Metcalf at wide receiver 16. I think he's a solid wide receiver 2 most weeks, week in, week out. So in any given week, he's going to be somewhere between 16 and 24. And this week, he's on the higher end of that at 16. Running game for the Steelers. I don't know who it is. I've got Jalen Warren ranked at around running back 20, and then Kenneth Gainwell in a secondary role catching passes. He got into the end zone last week. I've got him at running back 34. It's just the matchup. The Bengals are one of the easiest teams to run on. They're one of the easiest teams to throw on. I don't know that Joe Flacco fully saves the offense. I think Flacco being on this team kind of helps the team and helps the defense in general, but until I see otherwise, I'm going to be starting most players against the Bengals. Let's move to the other side now. Bengals, Joe Flacco, I've got him at 23. He's a decent player, a solid veteran. Better than Jake Browning, not someone I'm really looking to use for fantasy. Running backs, Chase Brown. I think in the future I will have him higher. I really don't know what this Steelers team is. If you remember in week 1, they gave up a lot of fantasy points to the Jets, Justin Fields, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson. Coming out of the bye, they completely shut down the Browns. Like, I don't know. Are they coming out of the bye and being a better team? Were they just a slow start to the season? Or was it just because they played the Browns? I'm not sure if this Steelers defense is excellent or middle of the road or bad. So I've got Jamar Chase. He's ranked at number 1. It's kind of a token rank. The top 5 guys, you're all starting them. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Drake London, these guys are all guys you're not getting away from. So he's at 1. I don't think too hard about my rankings at 1 versus 2. T. Higgins, I've got at 36. That is one where I'm definitely thinking about the ranking. I don't know that Joe Flacco can support 2 wide receivers. I don't know how great this Steelers defense is. I'm not excited to use T. Higgins or really very many of the Bengals in this game. The next game on the docket is another London game, another overseas game. We've got the Rams taking on the Jaguars. I think the Jaguars have been playing a game overseas most years for a long time, but this is the first time with Liam Cohen as the head coach. I don't know how teams react to moving to London. Teams come up with different plans for when they'll travel. Do they go and just try to brute force it through the change in sleep schedule? Do some teams go early to acclimate? I'm not totally sure what the Rams or Jaguars are doing or which plan is best. I tend to try to stay away from these games if I can. Let's talk about the Rams though. Not a lot of guys that I'm staying away from. I've got Stafford in a decent matchup at quarterback 12. I've got Devontae Adams at wide receiver 8 and Kyron Williams at running back 8. This Jaguars defense is not bad. They are not a terrible defense like they've been in the past. They've gotten much better. I don't think they scare me away from using these stud guys. I've got Devontae Adams ranked at 8, assuming that Puka is not playing. I do not have Puka in my rankings. I would expect that with an ankle injury, traveling on a long flight probably does not make that better. We've seen that before with players who travel cross country with an injury. It swells up and then it's harder for them to go. I'm expecting Puka to miss this game and Devontae Adams to move into a larger role. I don't have any of the other wide receivers for the Rams moving up into fantasy viable. I've just got Devontae Adams. Let's pivot to the Jaguars. I've got Trevor Lawrence at 20. This Rams defense is very solid. I've got Travis Etienne at 18. A lot of that is the Rams running defense is really, really solid. They are one of the toughest teams for running backs to score fantasy points against. Brian Thomas, coming off of a big week last week, finally gets into the end zone. He turned his 10 targets into 8 catches last week. Brian Thomas Jr. has been the focal point of this offense throughout the first 6 weeks of the year. He's been getting 8 targets, 10 targets, 12 targets, 6 targets, 7 targets, in that range every single week. I've got him at 15 this week. I'm going right back to him. It's been a slow start. I trust that he is an elite talent. I don't know if he's going to be wide receiver 4 again on the year. but top 12 is definitely within the range of outcomes, and I've got him at 15 for this week because of a tough defensive matchup and because he's playing overseas. I have Travis Hunter at 43. Any one of those screens could become a big play for him. I'm not looking to use him. He's definitely been a disappointment based on where we drafted him, but if you need a deep option, I'm going to go with Travis Hunter over some other deep options. Next game, we've got the Saints taking on the Bears. Bears favored by 5.5. Let's start with the away team, the Saints. I've got Spencer Rattler at 30. Teams have thrown on this Bears team. This Bears team is missing a lot of key defensive players. They're without Grady Jarrett for a couple weeks, a key free agent signing on their defensive line. They've been without Jalen Johnson, one of the best corners in the league for a while. I'm not sure that either one of those guys comes back, but they looked much better on Monday night playing the Commies coming out of the bye. This defense has started to turn things around. I've got Spencer Rattler at 30. I don't know that he's going to be the 30th best quarterback or the player who scores the 30th most points. I just am not confident starting him. I've got Alvin Kamara at 25. Teams have been able to run on the Bears. So I've got Kendre Miller at 39. And this is kind of just a mix of Kendre Miller's been getting up to about 35 to 40% snap share, 8, 9, 10 rushing attempts a game. It's not enough to use Kendre Miller, but it's enough to make me not comfortable using Alvin Kamara. He'll still catch passes like he has been. He's still usable. He's a viable flex option. He could still go back to being pretty good. He's just not what we paid for. So I've got Kamara at 25, Juwan Johnson, tight end 18. A lot of tight ends that had been hurt for the Saints have become healthy again. Taysom Hill, I'm not really looking to use Juwan Johnson anymore. I would consider him droppable. For the Bears, I have Caleb Williams at quarterback 5. This Saints team, I don't know if maybe I'm the first one telling you, they are not very good. The Saints give up the 5th most points to fantasy quarterbacks. That's through the first 6 weeks. Caleb Williams has looked good, has looked better with Ben Johnson. I've got him at 5 for this week. They're middle of the road rushing defense, the Saints, but Monday night, I saw a lot of run going all through DeAndre Swift. Kyle Monangai moving into a larger role, not as much of an impact role as, say, Kendre Miller for hurting, the way that Kendre Miller hurts Alvin Kamara. We're not really seeing that with Monangai and Swift. He's getting about 25 to 30% of the touches. Swift is still the lead guy in this offense. I've got him at 17 for this week in a solid matchup. And then the Saints, they give up a lot of points to quarterbacks. They give up a lot of fantasy points to wide receivers. I got Rome Odunze at 6. DJ Moore, I'm not sure of his status for the game. I have him in my ranks penciled in. He could come out. I've got him at 33. He's still a very solid player. Odd situation after the Monday night game. He stayed in DC. I saw reports that he left the game in an ambulance. I have no idea what that means. It does not sound good, but the team is saying, oh, he's probably fine. Like, ambulance usually means not fine. Team is saying he's fine. I'm going to go with the part that I see that is true and different. With a team player leaving the stadium in an ambulance is usually a pretty bad sign for them playing the next week. We'll update rankings later in the week, and any major news will probably come through the form of a YouTube short or a TikTok video. So that will be linked to this. Do not expect a full updated version of ranks. Next game, we've got the Dolphins versus the Browns. This one's just kind of a disappointing matchup for me. The Dolphins have been so good for offenses to play against, and the Browns offense has been so bad. Will the Browns offense be much better playing the Dolphins? I don't think so. Let's start with the Dolphins players in a really, really tough matchup. The Browns, bad NFL team, bad fantasy offense, very good NFL defense. So if your team is playing against the Browns, you have to respect it. The Browns may not win very many games this year, but it's not because of this defense, and it's not because teams are going to be putting up massive points against them. So I've got Tua at 22. I've got Devon Achane at 6. If you can move the ball on this Browns, I would expect it would be dump off passes to the running backs. Devon Achane is incredibly fast. I'm not really sitting him in any matchup. I've got Jalen Waddle at 24. He's still the lead guy in this offense. I really like him in most weeks. Against the Browns, I'm going to be worried. Darren Waller, I've got at 9 this week. I don't know that he's a massive part of this Dolphins offense, but the Dolphins do keep looking for him in the red zone. And until that goes away, I'm going to trust that he has a growing role in this offense, similar to what we saw last year with Jonnu Smith. He's not an amazing talent, very old player. This could be a one-year thing, and it could disappear. While it's still happening, I've got him at 9. He's a usable tight end option if you have maybe Kincaid on bye. Moving over to the other side with the Browns, the Dolphins, like I was saying, they're a great matchup to play against. I am still not excited to start very many parts of this offense. Dylan Gabriel, I've got a 29. I kind of want to see him really succeed before I am ever putting him into a lineup, even in a super flex league. Quinshon Judkins is really the only player I'm excited to use based on this matchup. I have him at 9. The Dolphins will let you run on them. Kimani Vidal looked excellent against the Dolphins last week. I don't know if he's an elite talent. I think it has more to do with who he was running against. And I think Quinshon Judkins can put up better numbers. I'm not really excited to start Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman, Isaiah Bond. I don't know what that room looks like. The Browns threw the ball over 50 times last week. I don't think that happens again all year. I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't happen again all year. So all of the numbers from last week, I kind of move on from them. I'm not that excited to trust that Jerry Jeudy is going to get 13 targets a week. I've got Harold Fannin at 11 and Njoku at 12. I think Njoku's playing status is in question. These guys do just get targets each week. I don't necessarily trust Jerry Jeudy's target rate from last week. I do trust how much they are targeting Fannin and Njoku, and I think these guys are borderline starters in any given week, especially this week against the Dolphins. Next game, we've got an interesting one. The Patriots take on the Titans. The Titans have recently fired their head coach. They have fired the coach that they hired to replace the now Patriots head coach, Mike Vrabel. It's an interesting matchup. Patriots, the line when I pulled it this morning was Patriots -6.5. I don't know how that's going to sort out, how that's going to change. In past years, when teams fire their head coach, you do see a boost for that team in that first week. So Titans are now turning to Mike McCoy. He was a head coach for the Chargers. I don't think he's particularly very good, but a lot of the times when the team fires a coach, it doesn't really matter who they move to. It invigorates the team. We do see them beat the spread a lot. So this game might be a little bit closer than you think. Let's start with the Titans, though, because it's a little bit more interesting. With everything that I just said about the Titans could be good, I'm not really excited to start anyone. Cam Ward, who's he throwing to? There's no Calvin Ridley in this game. I have him unranked. I have Van Jefferson maybe moving into a larger role. I don't want to put him into a fantasy lineup. He's unranked. I have Alec Iamander at 44. I'm just not excited. I have no idea who Cam Ward is throwing the ball to, and there is a good chance it's no one. Sometimes teams are just bad. Would I use Tony Pollard? Yes. Would I use Tajay Spears? In an emergency, when a team changes their coach, the offense also sometimes changes. I don't know who's the lead guy for this offense under a new head coach, and I don't expect a lot of success, even if they do okay against the spread. On the Patriots side of the ball, Drake May, I've got him at 7. The Titans are not an amazing matchup. They are a very bad team, just like I was saying with the Browns. They're a bad NFL team. This team is not the Browns defense, but they are okay. So I don't have Drake May as a slam play. This isn't just he's playing a bad team, so he's going to be good. Like, there are good players on the Titans, and they're generally on the defense. Running backs for the Patriots, I saw Mike Vrabel say maybe some of the running backs are worried about ball security. Yeah, they fumble a lot. I don't know who to start. I would love it if it was just TreVeyon Henderson. I think all of us watching, unless you're Ramondre Stevenson or Ramondre Stevenson's mom, just want the team to turn to TreVeyon Henderson. I do continuously tell myself, hey, we don't know. We don't know. The team thinks Ramondre is better. They keep going to him. I'm not an NFL GM. I'm not an NFL head coach. I will just follow what they do. I've got Ramondre at 27 and TreVeyon Henderson at 31. Similar idea for wide receivers. I don't know who the lead guy is. Kayshon Boutte has had good weeks. Kayshon Boutte has been the main target in weeks. Stephon Diggs has been the main guy in weeks. I've got Diggs at 26 and Boutte as a much deeper option at 41. And then Hunter Henry, sometimes he's the lead guy. Sometimes he's 4 for 40. Sometimes he's 2 for 20. He's not an amazing tight end. He's not as consistent as maybe a guy like Zach Ertz. He has definitely had some higher ceilings. I think you're okay if you start him, but you got to know, like, hey, it's tight end. Sometimes these guys are just not a part of the offense. The next game we've got is Raiders against the Chiefs. Chiefs are 10.5-point favorites in a 47-point over-under. Let's start with the underdogs, the Raiders. Geno Smith, I want to get away from him. I've got Ashton Genty at 13 in this matchup. I don't love the matchup against the Chiefs. I don't love the offensive line for the Raiders. I'm going to have a hard time moving away from the talent of the player. Ashton is very talented, and I want to find a way to get talented players in my lineup. I have Brock Bowers as someone probably not playing in this game. Pete Carroll has said they are looking at maybe he's out for a longer term through their bye week upcoming. We'll get news on that later in the week, and I'll probably post a YouTube short if he is posting. Jacoby Myers, I've got at wide receiver 35. I just don't know how many points this Raiders team is going to be able to score. On the other side of the ball, I've got Mahomes at QB4. On the year, Mahomes is quarterback 1 through 6 weeks, and I don't think it's a fluke. There are big changes. Mahomes has been running the ball. I've got him at 4 for this week. I like the matchup. I think he can pass the ball. I think he'll still scramble and run. I'm expecting that to continue. I don't think his success has been a fluke. I think a lot of it has to do with this team can't really run the ball with their running backs. Isaiah Pacheco, I've got at 35. Kareem Hunt at 36. They're both decent shot at making the end zone. I don't know who it would be. I don't have Brashard Smith ranked here. I do think he's a decent stash. If one of these guys were to get hurt, or at some point he could take over in this offense, but I'm not starting him in any given week until I see that. The big news of the week for the Chiefs is Rashee Rice coming back. I've got him at wide receiver 13. I am ready to slot him in. He was there in camp. He looked recovered from his knee injury. Based on his conditioning, maybe we'll hear that he's on a snap count. I think Andy Reid has said that. I've also in past years heard Andy Reid say a player's on a snap count, and the snap count is all the snaps. So we'll see what it is. My ranking of any of these players that we've brought up is not a prediction of how they will finish. It is my comfort level starting them. So maybe that is a bit confusing. Think of a player like Jameson Williams. In a lot of weeks, I'll rank him as wide receiver 26, 27, 28, depending on who's on bye. He will never finish as wide receiver 26, 27, 28. He will either be wide receiver top 5 with a huge touchdown or outside the top 40. This is just my confidence level in him. I have him at 13. I've got Xavier Worthy at 18. And then deeper options, Hollywood Brown and Tyquan Thornton. Tyquan Thornton could catch a big bomb pass. Hollywood Brown has been involved in this role. If you were using Juju Smith-Schuster at all, I think he is the odd man out and is now relegated to a very small role. I've got Travis Kelce as tight end 7. On the year currently, he's tight end 5. Last year, he was tight end 5. He's not exciting. There's plenty of exciting options to chase after, but if you just want someone safe that you can set week in, week out, and not have to worry about and be good at tight end, it's Travis Kelce, and this week I've got him at 7. Next game up is the Eagles at the Vikings, and this is an interesting game. Both of these teams have good defenses that have me kind of questioning who I can start. But they also both have pretty decent offenses who can solve bad defenses or tough defenses. Kevin O'Connell can solve a tough defense. Nick Sirianni can solve this Vikings defense. I don't know what happens. I am going to respect each defense in my rankings. Let's talk about it. I've got the Eagles with Jalen Hurts at quarterback 9. The rushing floor is always there. It's always real. Saquon I've got at 5. I will respect this matchup at the wide receivers for the Eagles. I've got A.J. Brown at 20, Devonta Smith at 29. And then I am willing to go back to Dallas Goedert, who has just continuously been a part of this offense. I think with the offensive coordinator change, that has led to more tight end usage. I've got him at 5 on the week. Until I see them going away from him, I'm going to expect that he'll be a key contributor. On the Vikings side of the ball, I've got Carson Wentz at 24. The Eagles defense has not been the Eagles defense, the tough defense. I think some of that is they haven't been as amazing on offense. When you have a full, complete team, that defense can really shine. They've changed a lot of the players, but I think Vic Fangio can get them rolling. And I think he can get to a guy like Carson Wentz. He can confuse a less good quarterback. I've got him at 24. With that said, I still have Justin Jefferson at 2. Easy targets to Jefferson. When you have an elite wide receiver talent, quarterbacks can go to him. We've seen Justin Jefferson just get peppered the ball by Carson Wentz. Even if he doesn't find his way into the end zone, like 8 to 10 targets, 8 to 10 catches is realistic for Justin Jefferson. We've seen that. Jordan Addison, I've got at 30. As the second option against a tough defense, I think that's where we see a bit more of a hit. And then I've got a tight end like Hawkinson at 9. He's a safe option at tight end. I do typically lean towards the safer, more reliable guys. And while he hasn't been that quite this year, I've seen a long track record of Hockenson with the Vikings being a very good tight end. Let's move on to a junker of a game. We've got the Panthers at the Jets, where the Jets are favorites. Let's start with the visitors. I've got the Panthers. Quarterback Bryce Young, I've got him at quarterback 26. Sauce Gardner taking away Ted McMillan. I don't know how well Bryce can adjust to the rest of this defense. I don't think they're an amazing defense. I just don't fully trust Bryce Young. I've got Rico Dowdle at 10. Until I see him not putting up 200 scrimmage yards a game, he's going to be a starter for me. If Chuba Hubbard comes back, I will adjust this ranking, and there will be a follow-up YouTube short for that. But if it's just Rico Dowdle, he's going to be in my lineup. At wide receiver 12, I have Ted McMillan. Sauce Gardner is a great talent. That is why I don't have Ted McMillan at wide receiver 8. I do respect that and move him down some, but I think Ted has been fantastic. He's been 10-target Ted most weeks. 10 targets, 8 targets. He had 2 touchdowns on Sunday. I think he's got a big year coming. It started in week 1. Ted just didn't find the end zone until week 6. I think he can continue that, and he's going to be a starter for me every week. Other wide receivers on the Panthers, Jalen Coker, if he makes his debut, I'm not excited to start him. I've got him at wide receiver 50. Xavier Legette, man, I wish he was better, is really all I could say about him. He seems like such a character. I would love it if he was great. I have him as wide receiver 49. For the Jets, I kind of want to get away from everyone. Garrett Wilson expected to miss this game. I like to think of teams in terms of what if I was quarterback? What if I was wide receiver? If I'm wide receiver, it doesn't matter how good the quarterback is. I'm not catching a ball. If I'm the quarterback, no wide receiver is catching the ball. When a team loses so much of their talent, Garrett Wilson is out and they don't really have a great option to replace them. Does that mean Mason Taylor gets way better? Does that mean Breece Hall gets way better? Sometimes they just stink. We've seen teams shut down the Jets. The Bills completely just wiped out everyone. Do I think the Panthers can do that? No. In future weeks, I'll have Breece Hall not at running back 15. I'll have Mason Taylor not at tight end 13. This Panthers defense, I think the Jets will be able to maintain something, but it's really just this Panthers matchup that is keeping these guys usable or viable options for me. So yeah, I don't like the offense. If Breece Hall has a great game, I might be looking to move on based on how long Garrett Wilson is going to miss. That's my prediction. And that's how I would start the guys this week. We've got an interesting one for the next one. Giants versus Broncos. Broncos got a great defense. We've got a young rookie quarterback, exciting rushing quarterback. Let's talk about it. Giants, I've got Jackson Dart at 13. The rushing floor of any rushing quarterback is going to keep them close to a starter in any given week. Until I see Jackson Dart just really poop the bed, I'm going to be trying to start him. It's just the Broncos matchup that has Dart out of my top 12. And just barely. I've got him at 13. I've got Cam Scatterbo at 14 and Tyrone Tracy at 41. I was wrong about Scatterbo. I thought this might be more of a mix with Tracy, with Singletary. Scatterbo's the lead guy. So he's going to be in my lineup in a lot of weeks. And then Wan'Dale Robinson, I've got at 38. I don't know that any receiver is amazing in this offense. Theo Johnson, 14. He's had some big weeks, some big chunks of this offense. I just don't know how well this team can pass the ball against the Broncos defense. Now, I would have said that against the Eagles last week, and they moved the ball just fine. I think the Broncos are in a bit more of a stable place than the Eagles are right now. So I'll trust that a little bit more, and it's on the road in Denver. On the Broncos side of the ball, I've got Bo Nix at 10. Good rushing quarterback. Giants defense does have a great defensive line. I think Bo Nix can still move the ball, get some quick passing options, which he is really good at. He's a good deep ball thrower too, but he is pretty good at getting the ball out quick. I've got J.K. Dobbins at 11 and R.J. Harvey at 32. We have not seen the breakout from R.J. Harvey. This is an emergency start if you need him, but I think they could get the ball going on the ground. Wide receivers for the Broncos, it's Cortland Sutton and really no one else. I'm not interested in Troy Franklin. I'm not interested in Pat Bryant. I'm not interested in starting Marvin Mims. For the Colts at the Chargers, let's start with the Colts. I've got Daniel Jones at 6. I just have not seen this guy fail. Tough matchup after tough matchup. He just keeps going. Like we've been saying with any other rushing quarterback, that's a huge boost for them. I don't know that Daniel Jones is an elite quarterback talent, but if he's a decent talent with good rushing, he's going to be in my lineup. I've got Jonathan Taylor at 7. The Chargers are a tougher defense, so that's why Taylor's at 7 and not at 2 or 1 like he has finished most weeks. Got Pittman at 19. Again, this is slightly further back than I might have him in any other week. Pittman is good. Pittman has been good. Pittman has multiple top 20 seasons. He's just coming off of last year when he finished as about wide receiver 40 because he was playing with back injury and he was playing with quarterback injury with Anthony Richardson. I like Michael Pittman. I think he's a solid wide receiver 2 for most weeks. And I think he's a good buy-in candidate. I don't know that everyone else has fully caught up to Michael Pittman is just a good player. Other guys on the Colts, Josh Downs has been finding the end zone, seeing a larger role. I've liked seeing that growth. I've liked seeing that progression in him. He could get into my lineup. And then Tyler Warren, rookie, amazing tight end. We're also missing a lot of great tight ends. So I've got him at tight end 2 on the week. On the Chargers side of the ball, Justin Herbert has started the season really hot, has become more of a week-to-week matchup. I've got him at 11 this week. I had him at 2 against the Dolphins. Amazing matchup last week. Colts have a good defense, so he's down at 11. I've got Kamani Vidal at 21. Again, big week against the Dolphins. That's what you want. That's the Dolphins. I've got Hassan Haskins, who reports were saying Haskins would be the lead guy. Haskins would be the next man up. That is not what we saw. It is possible that this could be a hot hand situation. Maybe it becomes a hot Haskins. Possible. I would stash Haskins, but I'm not starting him. This game could just go all to Vidal again, like we saw last week. Wide receivers, if Quentin Johnson goes, I've got him at 22 with Ladd at 27 and Keenan at 40. It's a tougher matchup, but I think the Chargers can still move the ball, especially if they get all their receivers back. The next game we've got is a true bonanza. It's the Commies facing the Cowboys. Two defenses that have given up points to basically every position. I've got Jaden Daniels at 1, Krosky Merritt at 16. I really like what I saw from Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt on Monday night. If you didn't watch the game and you only look at the box score, it looks bad. He wasn't amazingly efficient. He fumbled the ball. What I saw watching the game, though, was he fumbled the ball and they went right back to him. They were using him a lot. He had his largest rushing attempts of the year at 17, up from 14. His snap percentage got way closer to 65, 70%. That was the largest that it's been all year. For a rookie, that's what you're looking for. So I am in on Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, especially against the Cowboys. This Eberflus defense has given up points to wide receivers, quarterbacks, tight ends, running backs. Basically, if you have a member of the Commanders, start him against the Cowboys. So I've got Terry at 17 if he plays, coming off of an injury. I've got Debo at 28. These are both guys that are a little banged up. I'm not totally sure who goes, who doesn't, what their status is. Debo with the heel injury was not great on Monday. Am I starting a guy like Jalen Lane or Luke McCaffrey? I'll update my rankings if we find out that Terry McLaurin's out, if we find out that Debo is out. Otherwise, I'm probably just going with Terry, Debo, and Zach Ertz, who has just been consistently good. He had 1-0 week. It was his only goose egg in the past couple years. He's been rock solid. He's tight end 5. I think he's about tight end 13 on the season with that goose egg. I have him as tight end 5 on this week. And I think most weeks I'm going to be starting him. Okay, I think the ambulance is gone. I do live near a hospital and this microphone does not block it out. Let's move on to the next game. It's the Packers against the banged up Cardinals. Let's start with the Packers. Cardinals are not an amazing team, but they do have a decent defense. Defensive-minded head coach, and it has shown. We have a lot of questions about what they're doing on offense, but on defense, they have been a little bit better. So I have a hard time getting Jordan Love as a locked-in starter. He just doesn't run. So I've got Love at 14. I've got Josh Jacobs ranked very highly this week at running back 3. The Cardinals are about a neutral matchup for me. I just like Josh Jacobs. I like what the Packers have been doing. This offense, people have described it as a lot of wide receiver 2s. I think Matthew Golden is moving into that wide receiver 1 role. Coming out of the bye, he saw much larger usage, deeper targets, more targets. I've got Golden at 31 and Dobbs at 34. That could be flipped. We could end up flipping these guys. We could have one of these guys hit in the top 20. I'm not totally sure. The Cardinals are just a solid defense. I've got Tucker Kraft at 6. He's one of the better, more reliable tight ends that you can start. If you've been chasing guys like Mason Taylor, Theo Johnson, and not getting them on the weeks they get a touchdown, Tucker Kraft is just usually a pretty safe option most weeks, and I'm going to have him ranked as a starter basically every week. Let's flip it to the other side where it's Jacoby Brissett against this Packers defense. This Packers defense is elite. I do not want to start Jacoby Brissett. The Packers are one of the best defenses against the run. I don't really want to start Bam Knight. I think it is Bam Knight. I don't have Michael Carter ranked because I don't know that either guy is really going to get the ball moving against this team. Amari DiMarcado, also unranked. I've got Marv if he plays as wide receiver 21, but that is still in question with a concussion. And then Trey McBride is probably going to be a locked-in tight end for me in any given week. He's listed as tight end 1 this week. I don't know that it matters that much. He's just an elite tight end. Sunday Night Football, Falcons take on the 49ers. Let's start with the Falcons. At quarterback, I've got Michael Penix as QB 18. That's right behind Stroud. In the next game, we'll talk about at 17. He's a decent flex play for this, a decent fill-in this week if you're missing Lamar, if you're missing Josh Allen. You could probably get Penix on waivers, throw him in your lineup, and he'll be okay. I've got Drake London at wide receiver 5. He's coming off of a massive game on Monday night against the Bills. I was never out on Drake London. Hey, Drake London hurt his shoulder in week 1. That will affect your play. I have been on record saying coming out of the bye, I expect to see healthy Drake London again, and that if you could buy him during that bye week, it would be good. And that has been proven true. I'm not going to be right about everything, obviously, but that one, I don't even think that was that great of a prediction. Drake London, he's in your lineup if you have him. There's no other wide receivers on the Falcons that I care about. I've got Bijan Robinson at running back 1. The 49ers have had a good defense, but they are now banged up just like their offense. They're missing key players on the defensive side of the ball. I think that's what makes Penix a great starter. If they had more passing options, I would be a little bit higher on Penix, but it's really just Bijan, Drake London, a smidge of Pitts. I've got Pitts at 16. If they had more wide receivers, I would be much higher on Penix. On the 49ers side of the ball, I've got Mac Jones and Brock Purdy, whoever is named the starter this week, at about quarterback 21. And that is a lot to do with the Falcons defense. We need to start showing this Falcons defense some respect. In the offseason, they put a lot of resources into that side of the ball. New defensive coordinator, multiple first-round picks on the defense, and it's working. This team's heavily slowed down the juggernaut Bills offense on Monday night. I think they can slow down the 49ers. With that said, I'm always starting Christian McCaffrey. I have him as 2. I don't know that running backs 1 through 5 really matter. I'm starting McCaffrey. For the wide receivers for this team, because it's the Sunday night game, it's kind of tough. The 49ers are very cagey with their injury designations. We're not totally going to know who's playing, who's healthy, what the status of Juwan Jennings' lungs are, or what the status of Juwan Jennings' ribs are. If George Kittle's playing, we might not know until Sunday. I do not have George Kittle in the rankings. If we find out that he is playing after multiple days of practice, I'll release an update, and he would probably be top 5 or top 6 based on the receiving core of the 49ers. The final 2 games, we've got 2 Monday nighter games again this week. First one, Buccaneers at Lions. It's another scoring bonanza. The over-under is 53.5. Both of these teams can score seemingly for the Bucs without receivers. Put any guy out there and Baker can get the ball to them. I've got Baker at QB3 on the week, and I don't know how much I would change that based on who's starting. If Mike Evans returns, I feel great about it. If it's just Sterling Shepard and Tez Johnson and another Johnson, I still kind of like Baker as a top 5 quarterback. I've got Rachaad White at running back 19. I've been saying for years, I don't know that Rachaad White is very good. I don't know that he's very efficient, but they use him, and he's the only guy. And if he's out there, I probably am getting him into my lineup at running back 2 or at flex. I've got him at 19 on the week. If Mike Evans goes, he's going back into my top 15 wide receivers, especially with all the injuries to other wide receivers on this team. We'll keep looking. We'll keep an update. We'll know more about this going into Monday night if Mike Evans is expected to go. On the Lions side of the ball, I've got Goff at quarterback 8. The Buccaneers are a tougher defense, but I think the Lions can score on basically anyone, and I'm going to say that in most of these rankings videos until that I'm proven otherwise. I've got him at QB 8. I just don't know that it's going to be simple to move the ball. Like, the Bucs can stop some people. Jahmyr Gibbs I've got at 4. David Montgomery. This is a tougher running matchup. David Montgomery I would normally have in the higher teens, 16, 17, 18. So respecting the matchup, I do have him down at 24. Guys, if you have David Montgomery, he can just be your running back too. I thought maybe these Lions take a step back, losing Ben Johnson, losing a lot of offensive coaches. Nope. I thought maybe David Montgomery takes a step back from being 28, getting older. Nope. It's just Gibbs and Montgomery both getting in the end zone most weeks. They're both starters for me. Similar wide receivers, Amon-Ra St. Brown, always a start for me. And then like what I talked about earlier in the video, This week I have Jameson Williams at 39. It's just my comfort level starting him. I don't know if he's going to get a touchdown. I don't really chase that because it's really only been 2 good games from Jameson Williams this year. Maybe he's due. I don't really like to think that way. I've got him at about 39. There's a lot of other guys that I would go to ahead of him. Tight end, Sam Laporta, I've got him at 3. That's just kind of the state of the tight end position. I feel pretty confident in Sam Laporta's usage in this offense and his likelihood of getting into the end zone compared to deeper flyer options like Darren Waller, who I have at 9. I just think Sam Laporta is a bigger part of the offense. It doesn't always work out that Sam Laporta finishes higher, but I'm much more comfortable starting him and having him week in, week out. The final game of the week, Texans, Seahawks. Texans, I've got Stroud at 17. I don't know that Stroud is an elite fantasy quarterback. Rookie of the year, I've been saying it for a while, he's okay. He does not run. The Seattle defense, I don't know that they scare me, so I've got Stroud at 17. Running backs for the Texans, Chubb and Marks. There was 1 week we thought it was Marks. Then they go back to Chubb. Then I hear reports that they only view Marks as a passing option, a passing down back. I don't love Nick Chubb, but if he's the lead guy, he'll be at 28 against Seattle. They're a good defense, but someone's going to get the ball, and I think Nick Chubb can be it. For the wide receivers, Nico Collins, number 1 guy in the offense, really the only wide receiver I'm excited to start. I will look at other options on Monday night. And if you play fantasy football on a platform that lets you drop players after they've played, pick up Jaden Higgins going into Monday night. Drop a guy that you would have dropped on Tuesday, drop him Monday and grab Jaden Higgins. I don't want to start him, but I want to stash him and see what this rookie is coming out of the bye. Got him at 58. He should be owned, but I'm not looking to use him. On the other side of the ball, it's Sam Darnold. The Texans are a tough defense. This is not an amazing team, but their defense is solid. Sam Darnold has been good, but if I can get away from him, and I think he can this week, I will be. Ken Walker and Charbonnet, man, I don't know what's going on with this team. Every week on these rankings videos, I'm saying something different about who the lead guy is, who Seattle thinks the lead guy is. I'm just guessing until I know. I've got Walker at 22 and Charbonnet at 33. They both have a shot to get in the end zone. Ken Walker still looks good with the ball in his hands. He looks better than Charbonnet based on my eyes and a lot of other people's eyes, but I trust that the coaches generally know what they're doing. The Seahawks have been winning quite a bit using that game plan, and they're better coaches than I am. So I've got Walker at 22. JSN, wide receiver 3 on the week. If you have him, you're starting him. Other options on this team, Cooper Kupp, Torrey Horton. I'm not really excited to start either one of them. They both have a chance to get the end zone. In the end zone, they both have a chance for 8 targets or so. And then at 15, I've got A.J. Barner, the tight end for the Seahawks. Hey, he's found the end zone in a couple weeks. I think he's not quite a special fantasy tight end. We're chasing touchdowns, and I don't really like to do that. So I've got him at 15. He could get back in there. We've seen them draw up plays for him in the end zone, but it's not something I'm looking to predict. That brings us to the end of the games. We have covered the entire slate. Again, like I've said multiple times throughout this video, there's timestamps. You can jump around, so maybe you didn't hear it. For injuries, we will update those through YouTube Shorts that link back to this video, or if you follow me on TikTok, they will be on TikTok as well. If this has helped you set your lineup, please drop a like, drop a subscribe. Let me know in the comments if it helped you. If you have any questions or there's a player you'd like to hear me talk more about, let me know in the comments because we do drop YouTube Shorts videos throughout the week. We do drop TikToks throughout the week. Thank you very much, guys. Have a good one. I'll see you in the next one.